Architectural Builder's Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
In town, door closer, you know?
Oh.
What's that?
Yes, sir. Oh, I understand. Yale in town, that would be Yale many decades ago.
Yeah, and I can't seem to get it to retract. Like, the door will open when it's installed, but it won't close back. And
you've got to set the tension on it. So when the arm sits on top of the body, there's a circular sort of device that appears as if it has square teeth around the circumference. Yeah. So you've got to literally get a spanner wrench or something that will do that job and crank that to set tension on the spring. Otherwise, you have no spring tension. And it'll open. It'll give you spring tension in one degree, in one direction of rotation, because that spring is a coil. And in your mind's eye, if you took and you turned that coil clockwise, or you took the inner and outer part and rotated them such that they expanded, you could do that. You could also rotate them in the opposite direction and make it compress. Well, it turns out those door closers and those springs, they are non-handed, because that closer spring will work whether you're trying to stretch it out or you're trying to shrink it down. But you have to set it no matter what. Otherwise, you won't have tension in the closing.
Okay, so I've taken it all apart.
Oh no! How far apart?
I mean, everything is out of the cylinder.
Oh no! Do you know how to put it back together? Because if you don't, that's got to get shipped back. They're probably not going to reassemble it at no charge. Can you put Humpty Dumpty back together?
I think I can reassemble it.
Okay.
It's just okay. Well, first I got to reassemble it, I guess, now.
Most absolutely. And while you've got the hood up, but definitely investigate what I've just said. There is a way by which you will capture the spring on the outer and inner part, and that's how those work. A spanner wrench.
What?
A spanner wrench is what would be the best tool for doing the work that you need to do. The issue, though, is you may not have access to a spanner wrench.
A spanner wrench, what is that?
Spanner wrench, it's easier to see, but it looks like a box wrench, which is like fixed crescent wrench, let's say. It has a large mouth on it that's the right radius or diameter of what you're trying to mate it to, and it has a couple of teeth in it that are meant to go in those notches that I described earlier.
Uh-huh. So once I have it back together again, I just turn it clockwise or counterclockwise, or?
Well, it depends on the hand of the door and how you're installing it, but one rotation, it's not going to work. So, it's 50-50.
Okay.
So, cranking it to the left may work. If it doesn't, crank it to the right. Put a couple of notches of tension on it, and you'll discover quickly how you get a different type of end result out of it.
Okay. All righty. Well, I think that's all you can do for me.
Yes. At this stage, yes, it is. You would definitely want to look up what a spanner wrench. Now, the factory will say just use a channel lock or use a pipe wrench. Yeah, you can, but you don't want to muck up that top circular toothed wheel at all. I wouldn't want to use a channel lock, even though you could. I would look for the proper tool to reset that. Now the logic is, when that was removed from the door and frame, when you're loosening the screws on the arm to the whatever, the header or the door, it's probably really wanting to come out aggressively. That's because it's under spring tension. So, yeah. So a spanner wrench would be the right tool. Would be the best tool.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, you could maybe try to put something between the channel lock and the hardware itself so you don't muck that up. You don't want to dig into that.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So, my name is Richard. Let me know how it turns out. I do want to know how it turns out.
Yeah. Could I actually write down your number in case I need to talk to you again?
Yeah, of course. Happy. It is, my direct is 239-315-7889.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video.
So just to be sure, would you be able to walk me through how to put it back together again?
I couldn't, because I would for sure need one in front of me, and I can get one, but I would have to get one and get it here. It's something that I could do in the not too distant future, but without having one, because I don't have any documentation on it, is the problem. I don't have a parts diagram.
Okay, I wouldn't be able to send you a picture?
You're welcome to send me a picture, but without me being able to go through the steps with you, it's not going to be successful, because I need to be able to do it while we're on the phone. I don't have the recollection to do it from memory, from a picture.
Okay, but so I can send you a picture?
You're welcome to send me a picture. I won't be able to tell you from it how to put the thing back together. You can ship it to us, and we can go from there. But walking you through it on the phone without me having one, what you should do is send me a picture. Let me get one, and I'll call you back, and we'll do it together on the phone. I just don't know how quickly I'm going to be able to get my hands on one, but I will get one.
Oh, you can do that today?
Definitely not today.
Okay.
I just can't get one fast enough.
All righty. How can I send you a picture?
Sure. Email. It is, my email address is sales, SALES.
Yep.
At A as in architectural, B as in builders, supply, SUPPLY .net.
Okay.
Send it over. Let me take a look.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. So the conversation that you've just heard is actually extremely common, and I understand why. The fact of the matter is I've been selling door closers for over 30 years, and I can't tell you how these work because, well, my grandfather's not around for me to ask him. I don't know how they work. But with the last phone call, I realized it's time to learn how these work. So I now know how these work, and they're actually extremely simple. Extremely simple. The bottom line is, the client calls and says, hey, I got the repaired closer back from you, and there's no tension on the spring. Well, the client sends us this. It gets torn apart, rebuilt, and actually a very thorough process. All new parts on the inside. Maybe not all new parts, but the seals, the liquid, the items that are clearly worn get replaced, rebuilt. Before that happens, the entire closer body is stripped, it's baked, it's cleaned, it's completely brought down to its base material. The label's removed, it's put back on, the whole 9 yards, or something to that extent. And so this is what the client ships us, and after all that's done, this is what the client gets back. And what's funny is they don't know how. They don't realize that in the process of removing it from the door and removing the arm to send it to us, they've put the spring in just its idle position. And all that needs to be done is when you reattach the arm, you have to set some initial tension on the spring, and that's the part that people are really missing. So it's really super simple, and let me just quickly show you how it's done. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. When you get your closer back from us, it's going to look like this. First thing to do is to put the arm on, and the profile of this is a crankshaft, actually, is what it is. There's really only one way for the arm to go on. It's just the bottom line. The unusual type of profile in here, got a rounded area here, you've got a radiused area here, you've got 3 inside corners and then a large radiused area. When you study, and I understand it's difficult to see, radiused area here, outside corner, outside corner, outside corner. There's only one way for the arm to go on. So when I said that this is super simple, it is. And I think that I am really guilty of overthinking these. And the fact of the matter is there's no published documentation. So what I did was, to solve this problem, I found a Russwin B from the mid-20th century online, on an online flea market, which was complete. It had the instructions. And then I went to a Russwin 1930 or 32 catalog that I have, which I'm going to show you, which filled in the rest of the information. All I did was refer to the manufacturer's cut sheet and the manufacturer's installation instructions. What they did in 1930 is the same thing I did in 2023, almost 2024. So the arm goes back on, and I suggest having a rubber mallet. You don't really need to tap that down, but it'll need to be tapped down, because this component here is all connected. That needs to be seated. And I wouldn't worry about it too much, because you're then going to place the nut on. When you ship us the closer, you're going to keep the arm, the nut, the whole 9 yards. Now, the nut goes on, and I'm going to marginally tighten it. Just tighten it. It needs to be monkey tight, not gorilla tight. I happen to have an Epic crescent wrench. Going to give that a little bit. That's really all we need. Okay. Now, client gets to this point, they're feeling good. And when you do this, and you do this, like, oh, that's weird. Why is that like that? Well, don't do that. You can, but don't. Bring that back to where it was. And go slow, because there is a crankshaft driving a piston, and there's fluid. They call it liquid. I wouldn't call it oil, they call it liquid. And as that piston moves, literally down here, the fluid is moving from from one side of the pot belly to the other, controlled by these valves, and it's going through raceways inside of there. So this is where it gets tricky for the client. The arm has to go on. Don't turn it. This arm, the main arm, is going to be perpendicular to the body. Just perpendicular. When you get it installed, it will no longer be perpendicular. Okay? The forearm will be perpendicular to the door or to the frame. This has to be perpendicular, but we're not there yet. So, This is the part where people have trouble, because what you need is a spanner wrench. I bought that that Russwin B because it was complete. It included the spanner wrench. This is they don't call it a spanner wrench, but it's a universal tool. It will allow me to manipulate the nut. It will allow me to set the valve, I think, with this. I'm not really sure. Or here it does. This open end here, that will allow me to set that valve on there, should I need to. Okay, that's called the quieting valve, I believe. That nut adjusts the quieting valve. So the important part is this. You have to set tension on this bear with me. It's called part 4. Yep. Part 4. Wind the ratchet. It's called the ratchet, is what it's called. The ratchet. You need the ratchet, and you need your ratchet pin. That would have been something you took off as well. Well, here's all you need to do. Put it back on the door. Put the closer back the way it was. There's only one way that you can turn the ratchet when using the right wrench. There's only one way you can rotate it, because the wrench won't fit on to turn it clockwise. It will only fit on to turn it counterclockwise. Like that. It won't fit on this way. I can't turn it in the wrong direction. And all you do is you hold that arm and you rotate the ratchet. You rotate, well, you basically just turn the closer body. And you drop your ratchet pin in there. Do I have that right? Bear with me. Ah, there we go. Okay, I had the ratchet in the wrong position. Okay, so now what I've done is I've put the wrench on the ratchet. Now you can see it rotate. The ratchet pin acts as the stop to keep the ratchet from going too far. When you receive it back, it's going to be too far. The spanner wrench goes in the ratchet. You turn it the direction you can, which for this is counterclockwise. Drop the pin back in, probably the second position. Now you have tension. You now have tension. You can see the arm close. You might be thinking, well, that's great. Goes one way, what about the other way? Well, it turns out that when you turn it the other way, it forces the ratchet pin to do the same thing. Now, what's really neato Toledo about this is in the Russwin catalog, it says, we've got a closer that's going to work on a left-hand or a right-hand door, and you don't have to do anything. How is that possible? It did bake my noodle for a minute. But then I realized I've already been taught this. So there is a coil spring inside of here. Okay. Think of the spring on your overhead door. That big, giant, expensive overhead spring. When you hit the motor, that thing compresses like this. It gets tighter. And that's what allows the motor to overcome the weight of the door, because you're counterbalancing what's happening. The coiled spring inside of this closer body, you can tighten it. And when you let it go, it'll come back this way. So when you tighten it, imagine, if you will, that the diameter of the spring gets ever so slightly smaller. Just think of it like that. Well, it turns out these springs, if you turn it the other way, get ever so slightly larger, let's say, work in the same physical, according to the same physical principle of a spring. You can either tighten it and release and get energy, or you can expand it and let it resume back to where its natural state is. That's why it's not handed. That's how this works. It's no more difficult than that. Where clients get into trouble is they don't have the spanner wrench. They don't. What is recommended, without the word recommended is wrong. I don't recommend it. But somehow you need to get the ratchet cranked over. If you don't have a spanner wrench, and this is literally what a spanner wrench is. This curved shape, this notch, and a handle. That without these special perforations in this metal, that's a spanner wrench. If you look up spanner wrench, it's going to look like this. If you don't have a spanner wrench, the only other tool, as inelegant as it is, would be channel locks. You really don't want to slap channel locks on here and crank it over, but in the absence of any other way to do it, that's going to be the only way to do it. So, if you call and you say, I got the closer back, it's limp. There's no, I can't, it'll go in one direction but won't go in the other. You have to set some initial tension. Spanner wrench, rotating the ratchet. Okay, ratchet pin goes in, and it doesn't care if you go this way because it's compressing the spring, or if you go this way and pushing against the ratchet pin, expanding the spring. That spring comes back to center, whether it goes in or out. That's how these work. It's been extremely enlightening just studying about this for the last hour to learn about how they work. It turns out that they're all like that. If it's a potbelly, it's going to be this principle. So, hopefully that solves the problem. How is it that people get the closer off and don't realize they need a spanner wrench? Well, the way I figure it is they do, because when the arm that's going to the frame, you can loosen these screws that's holding this. And what's going to happen probably as you loosen the screws, the arm is going to be pulling it, so this is probably going to be really coming out of off the header really quickly. And someone might then realize, oh gosh, I've got to hold the arm down while I loosen the screws to get this off, and then the whole thing comes off, and someone sees that nut and realizes, well, okay, that's a crescent wrench, box wrench, channel lock. They get that off and they probably just pound that arm off and realize at that point it was probably fighting them because there's tension on this. What you want to do first, and what I don't imagine people do, is use that spanner wrench to relieve the pressure on that. So what you would do is you would relieve the pressure, pull the ratchet pin out. No pressure. I can easily pull the ratchet pin out, let the ratchet go to a centered position. At that point, you remove the nut and you carefully tap the arm off. You want to be careful because all this is really connected. But that's simply how this is done. Super simple. Thank you. Any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to us. Regarding the links to ads that you might see in this video, we do apologize for any interruption to a smooth viewing experience. And hopefully the ads that are being presented to you are related to the base product. And if there is something, feel free to click on those and perhaps consider taking a look at what that other advertiser is promoting. Let's get back to the video. Now, if you can tolerate a little bit more, let's actually look at the installation instructions. So it's a big sheet. This sheet is 70 years old. It's the same document on both sides, but really what ends up baking my noodle a little bit when I'm first looking at it, I'm seeing this here. Okay. The shoe is on the left side for a left-hand door, as you can see. I flip it around for a right-hand door. They're showing the shoe on the same side, so to me it's, I know that didn't make sense. But what they're saying is, what they're saying without saying it is, don't question it, it's going to work. And what that really means is, when you install this closer, okay, if it's a left-hand door, you're going to move that over this side. If it's a right-hand door, you're going to move that over that side. What has to happen is, when you install it, the forearm needs to be perpendicular like it is here. Or, and this is the part that bakes people's noodle, here. Okay. So again, that arm can go in either direction, equally effective no matter what. It's the miraculous clockwise, counterclockwise, come back to center action. So let's go over the installation instructions, if you will. First of all, this is a giant template. You've got your hinge side and your header. That goes on there, and you mark your 4 holes here for the body here. And you mark your holes up here for the arm, right? Yeah. So you've got 6 holes to mark with this. So I would get that placed up there, and I would probably maybe use some, if I was going to install this, I would use, well, I would just measure it myself. I wouldn't use the paper template. I would tape that on there. I would then take a center punch and a hammer and hit it. Assuming there was no glass, no people around me that would be disturbed by the sound, but I'd want to center punch it. And then from there I could pre-drill my holes once I've center punched. So, directions for applying. And again, what makes it neat, what makes it interesting is they show it that way for a left-hand door, regardless of the side of the template. And it would be nicer if they took it and, you know, gave you the other image, at least for someone who's never, ever studied these. I've seen plenty of doors that have them installed. I never bothered to wonder about how they work because it's technology that hasn't been produced in decades. Well, that's not true. Yale still makes them, a sister company of Corbin Russwin. Yale Norton, one of the two, they phased out the branding under one of the two. It's the same closer. Either it's the Norton 7800 series or the Yale, I think, 1900. What's interesting about the modern potbellies, and you do sell them, there's a steakhouse in Chicago, and they've got locations, I think, throughout the United States. They go with that whole mid-20th century look, the dark wood, the whole 9 yards. They buy the new potbellies by Norton, the 7800 series. I've got a customer in South America that once or twice a year, they buy like 12 of them. And these things are really expensive. I mean, the street price currently is well over $1,000. And the problem with that is, beyond the fact that they're exceptionally expensive, they're a grade 3 closer. A grade 3 closer is what you'd put on a low volume residential application. This closer right here, when they're sent into us for repair, they're 70 years old. They're 100 years old, and we're repairing these. That grade 3 is not going to last, in my opinion, if it's used. Expensive, grade 3, low quality. 4, not handicap compliant. So doing potbellies, which is the street term for a traditional closer, not on a handicap door because there's too much force required to open the door. That's the problem with it. So let's dive into the installation instructions. It's going to be a much shorter version of this video just showing how you set the tension on the arm. That's not going to deal with any of this. So directions for applying is what this says. Place this template on the door and casing, having the top edge and hinge edge of the door coincide with the respective lines of this template. Well, that's pretty easy. Just follow these lines. Drill holes for screws as indicated. I pointed out the 6 holes. I'd start with the center punch. After closer and arm bracket have been applied separately, exactly according to the template, and that's important, especially the height. The height needs to be observed because when you open the door, if you've ever heard a clanking, that's the arm elbow hitting the top of the door because it's not at the right height or it's very loose. After closer and arm bracket have been applied separately, closer on the door, arm bracket on the header, assemble and adjust arm as follows. So right now, you've got this on the door, you've got this hanging down, and all you're really going to do is you're going to push this in to mate these two pieces. Okay. That's what that other punch is on the multi-purpose on the spanner wrench tool. That goes in there like that. You get it set to where you want. You tighten that nut down. That's going to be right here. That's what that one's for. Super easy. Okay. You get the arm compressed. You tighten this nut. That's it. That's all you do on that. So insert the adjusting rod, which is 21, into 22, and swing main arm until adjusting rod and loop, the adjusting rod and the loop are perpendicular. It says the adjusting rod and loop stand at a right angle with the door frame, so perpendicular. A right angle. They chose that terminology for a reason. I don't know what the reason is. With the door frame as shown in the illustration. Okay, so there's your illustration right there. Tighten loop set screw firmly to hold the arm in this position, which we did. We tightened the loop set screw right here. You're done. The installation instructions literally say you shouldn't have to adjust anything. However, you can do a couple of things. You can regulate the closing speed, and let's go over that. Place the closer on the door according to template, then open the door and try closer for proper speed. If the door is required to close slowly, turn button A in figure 1 at end of valve to right. If required to close faster, turn to the left, clockwise or counterclockwise. Clockwise is righty, counterclockwise is lefty. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. This adjustment will regulate the speed of the door to within about 3 inches of the jamb. So this valve right here is how you're going to adjust the rate of close. Okay, that's right here. The second part of that, to obtain a quiet closing, hold on. Crank the arm, watch it move. Just watch it move. And thud. The thud at the end. When that door is going to close nice and slow, you control it with the knob on the outside. It's going to thud the last 3 inches. You can tailor that. And it says, to obtain a quiet closing, turn nut, figure B, to the right. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. This is the nut. Wait. Yeah, this. I think you've got to loosen the nut first to rotate this. At that point, for quick release to overcome latch resistance, turn to the left. So as the door would come closed, if it's hitting, the latch bolt's going to hit the strike. If you need more closing force, you're going to open that quiet closing valve a bit to allow the spring to thud that closed. If the door has been changed by this adjustment, readjust the button according to the direction. So if turning the quiet closing valve has messed up your closing speed, readjust your closing speed. The only other thing that you can do to this is regulate the spring tension. The closer is delivered with tension on the spring. That's the problem. When people have these repaired, it's returned to them without tension on the spring. If different tension is required, use the special winding wrench packed with the closer. Wind the ratchet to the left and place the ratchet pin in whichever hole on the ratchet gives the required tension. There are 4 holes. It comes from the factory in hole number 2. If I take the wrench and I turn the ratchet, I can pull that pin and put it in the first hole, the third hole, or the fourth hole. That's going to modify the amount of standard tension already set on the spring. It's already partially wound. You're either going to partially wind it less or partially wind it more. We recommend carrying ratchet pin in second hole for best results. Be sure and place the ratchet pin 19, that's part number 19, on the right-hand side of the arm, 20, regardless of the hand of the door. And that's the part that bakes the noodle. You say, how is that possible? It'd be really great if they just said, hey, listen, the spring can be either compressed or contorted, or tightened or loosened, and it will work, and that's how we achieve. You don't have to mess with the arm, you don't have to mess with the spring. That's how it works. My vendor that does our repairs, I literally went to their facility, and as he's describing it to me, he's also not saying how it works. And I stood there perplexed as to how a potbelly can go this way, right, left hand or right hand, and the spring is good either way, because I'm always thinking of a spring. You can't stretch a spring. Turns out in this type of coiled spring, you can, and that's how they work. And when I said to him, well, the only way that that would work is if I could tighten the spring or loosen it and have it return to its zero state. And he says, that's exactly how they work. And once I knew that, I said, I got it. I got it. So, the rest of the installation instructions don't have really anything else to say. We've literally covered all of it. It defines the parts, but you've got your arm nut, your ratchet pin, your main arm, your forearm, your set screw for the arm rod and the loop, they call it. You've got your closing valve, you've got your quiet close valve, and then you can set the tension based on where you put the ratchet pin. I'm going to now move on in the video to look at the 1930-32 catalog if you'd like to watch that as well, show you where that comes into play. Let's do that next. So as I was studying the problem, I was doing exactly what I would do today. Whatever a hardware guy would have done in 1930 is what I did in almost 100 years later. I basically pulled up the catalog. So this is a Russwin. Well, I first went to my Corbin Russwin manufacturer's page. Corbin Russwin. And I have some really old catalogs from some different manufacturers. But I didn't really have one from the mid-20th century. And the reason I say that is because I thought somewhere on this document it was dated to the 1950s. And now that I look for that, I don't see a year on this at all. Or it could be the person that I bought it from online believed it was from the 1950s. Well, closers like this are not unlike modern hardware where they're, you know, a Schlage A-line lock has been made since the mid-20th century. The lock in the 2023 catalog is the same from the 1940 catalog, basically. So in my PF Corbin, I don't have any catalogs from mid-20th century, and I thought, well, let me try the Russell and Irwin catalog. Control F, E-R-W-I-N. Let me see what I have, is what I was thinking. Russell and Irwin. And you'll note that logo looks kind of like the logo on our closer. And I don't have anything, but I do have a 1930, so let's check it out. Let's just try. That catalog loads, and it's a large document. And the catalog eventually opens. The Russwin 16. That's probably it's the Russwin 16 catalog. That's not the year. It's just their 16th catalog, I would think. So I do a Control F and I type in closer, and there's lots of closer matches here. And as I go through this, I'm looking for something that is interesting. Interesting enough, the 16th match, you can't see that. The 16th match of the word closer is a Russwin B. The closer that I have on my desk is a Russwin B. Page 463. Let's go to page 463. 631 pages. 463. Oh, here we go. This catalog's 100 years old, by the way. Almost 100. Closer construction. So this, page 460, shows the anatomy of a door closer. Wow, that looks a lot like what we have, doesn't it? Turns out it is. Pardon me. Turns out it does because it is. We've got a piston. We've got a crankshaft. We've got raceways. We've got a ball valve. We've got the closing regulating valve, and we've got the quiet close valve. We've got the crankshaft that is controlled from the top of the nut all the way seated to the bottom of the body. Okay. And then we've got the business end, the spring. I won't read all this to you. I don't know that you actually need to read this, in the sense of, if you're interested to know more about the science of how this works and what goes into it, by all means. If you're following along, you'll know where to find the catalog. But I want to get to the spring. That's it. The effectiveness and power of a door closer rests in the quality of the spring which propels it. The Russwin spring is a flat, rectangular wire coiled from a suitable length to give it the maximum resiliency, therefore guarding it against crystallization. The reason that locks break is because the springs fail. They crystallize, and assuring it a long and effective life. It is also constructed so that it is reversible for either a left or a right-hand door, and that's the important part. They don't tell you how it's constructed to be reversible, it just is. Every spring before it is assembled in the closer is given a thorough inspection and subjected to a rigid test far in excess of that to which it will be put when in actual use. And then page 463, and our size B for inside doors not exceeding 3 foot in width. That's our Russwin B. There's a closer chart here. It will tell you what model you need for thickness and the size of the door. They get to 3'6" doors in this chart, and that's it. 3'6" by 8'6". That's just phenomenal. But that's really how this works. It's because of that spring. Okay, that's it. We're done. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.